Have you ever felt like life handed you pain and left you to figure it out alone? What if I told you that the silence, the heartbreak, and the nights you cried without anyone knowing were shaping something unbreakable inside you? These are not just lessons. They are scars that speak. And once you hear them, your soul will never be the same. Stay until the end, and I promise you will not leave untouched. The room was quiet, too quiet. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering like they were unsure whether to stay alive. The air felt thick, as if it carried secrets too heavy to speak. And there I stood, sweat running down my spine, heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted out. I had just failed, publicly, painfully, and as the silence closed in, I realized something. Nobody was coming to save me. That was lesson one. No one is coming. Not your parents. Not your friends. Not even your heroes. You are alone in the arena, and you either fight or you get crushed. Lesson two hit even harder. Time does not care. The world will keep spinning, whether you are broken or whole. You can cry. You can scream. But the minutes keep ticking, and when the sun rises, it will rise without mercy. Lesson three felt like a betrayal. Hard work does not always lead to success. I had put in the hours, burned the midnight oil, sacrificed sleep, comfort, love. And yet, nothing came. Sometimes, life just does not reward effort, but it does reward resilience. Lesson four was a whisper in the dark. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Some people are poison in perfume. Their laughter hides knives. I learned this when I trusted someone with my truth, and they used it to cut me. Lesson five made my stomach turn. You are not special. Not by default. Not because your parents told you so. You are one of billions. Your pain is not unique. Your story is not sacred. And if you want to matter, you must earn it. Lesson six came with silence. Most people do not care about your struggles. They are busy drowning in their own. You can bleed in front of them. They will scroll past, offer fake sympathy, and then forget you by morning. Lesson seven is brutal in its truth. Love does not always last. Even the deepest love can die. Without warning, one morning you will wake up and realize the warmth is gone. The eyes do not sparkle anymore. The hands do not reach for yours. And no one will explain why. Lesson eight struck like thunder. Your comfort zone is a trap. It feels safe, but it is slowly killing your dreams. Every minute you spend avoiding discomfort, you lose momentum. You trade growth for illusion. Lesson nine crept in slowly. Happiness is not permanent. It is a moment, a flicker of light in the dark. You cannot chase it. You must learn to dance in its glow, and then let it go. Lesson 10 was like swallowing fire. You will fail, often, and not every failure will teach you something. Some failures are just painful, senseless, and cruel, but they will still shape you. Lesson 11 whispered through gritted teeth. Success will cost you more than you imagined. Sleep, sanity, relationships, sometimes even your peace. And no one will warn you about the bill. Lesson 12 finally broke me open. You will never be fully ready. Not for love, not for change, not for greatness. But you must move anyway, because waiting will bury you. So I moved, not because I felt brave, not because I had a plan, but because standing still began to feel like dying. The city outside was still drenched in rain, each drop hitting the pavement like a warning, a reminder that the world was cold, and it would not pause for my healing. I stepped into the storm anyway, and that was the moment everything changed. Not magically, not instantly, but something in me cracked open. The lie I had been holding, that life owed me something. It burned away in that rain. I walked through the streets soaked, but lighter, freer. I understood then that discomfort is not the enemy. It is the gatekeeper. On the other side of pain is not just peace. It is power, the kind of power that is earned, not given. You cannot fake your way through these lessons. You must live them, bleed through them, be reshaped by them. And here is what they do not tell you. The moment you stop chasing ease is the moment life begins to reveal its depth. I started noticing things. The sound of silence between screams. The way people look down when they lie. the hunger in the eyes of those who have been forgotten, the fire in those who refuse to stay forgotten. And I realized, everyone is hiding something. Everyone is fighting a war they hope no one sees. But some people turn that pain into fuel. They do not hide their scars. They sharpen them, wield them, and when they walk into a room, the air changes, because they carry gravity, not entitlement. That is the kind of person I wanted to become. So I stopped asking why me, and started asking, what now? The world did not care about my tears, but it respected my persistence. I began waking up before the sun, not because I had to, but because I refused to let life pass me by while I slept. I read books that hurt to understand. I trained my body until it screamed. I faced conversations that left me shaking. And every time I wanted to quit, I remembered the silence of that room, the flickering light, the weight of failure, and the raw truth that no one was coming. That pain became my compass. If it scared me, I ran toward it, and slowly, the fear began to fade, not because it was gone, but because I had changed. I no longer needed to feel ready. I had become dangerous in my uncertainty. And that is where your power lives too, in your broken pieces, in your rock-bottom nights, in your silent prayers to a sky that never answered. You are not made stronger by comfort. You are forged in fire, in rejection, in loneliness, in doubt. That is where your greatness is born. So if you are listening to this, and your chest feels heavy, if your dreams feel distant, if your failures are stacking higher than your hope, good. You are exactly where you need to be. Because pain is the teacher, and survival is the test. But thriving is the rebellion. The world does not expect you to rise. It bets that you will fold. So prove it wrong. Get up, even if your legs shake, even if your voice cracks, even if no one claps when you do. Get up anyway. Because lesson 13, the one nobody says out loud, is this. When you decide you are unstoppable, you already are. I walked into the mirror that night, not just to see my reflection, but to meet my reality. My face was tired, eyes sunken from the weight of sleepless nights, jaw clenched, like I had been biting my truth for too long. And yet, there was something in my eyes I had never seen before. Not hope, not light, but fire. It was not pretty, but it was real. I stood there breathing, listening to the hum of silence around me. The walls were thin. I could hear my neighbor's television, laughter on the screen, but none in my room. My stomach growled, not from hunger, but from the craving of something bigger, a life that meant more than existing, more than waiting for permission. And I knew no applause would come, no validation, no helping hand. That was the weight of lesson 14. You must crown yourself. No one will hand you the throne. No one will name you king or queen of your dreams. You must walk through fire, alone, and claim it. The world does not hand out destiny. It only honors those who demand it. So I stopped trying to convince anyone, stopped asking people to believe in my vision, because belief is not what makes a dream come true. Relentless execution does. I started working in silence, grinding in the shadows. While others talked, I moved. The nights got longer. The failures got heavier. But my skin got thicker. I became immune to opinions, because I understood this brutal truth. Most people judge what they fear becoming. They laugh because they are scared. They mock because they feel small. And I refused to shrink for their comfort. I took my pain and made it art, took my scars and made them maps. I knew now that greatness was not about talent. It was about endurance. Could I keep going after everyone left? Could I push through when the applause stopped? Could I still show up when nobody watched? That was the test. Not the spotlight, not the stage, but the silence. The world breaks everyone. That is true. But some people come back as weapons, sharpened by rejection, polished by failure, lit by a fire no one else can see. That is who I was becoming. The journey was brutal, and it was lonely. But in that loneliness, I found clarity. The fake friends disappeared. The noise faded. And in that vacuum, my real voice began to speak. Not the voice that begged to be liked, but the one that commanded truth. I started trusting my instincts. Started saying no without guilt. Started walking away from things that drained me. Because that is lesson 15. Protect your energy like it is sacred. Because it is. Give it to those who honor it. Starve the leeches. Walk away from anything that makes your soul shrink. You do not owe anyone your peace. You owe it to yourself. I stopped seeking balance. Started chasing alignment. Because balance sounds calm. But alignment is fire. It pulls everything into place with force. And force is what it takes to rewrite your life. I remember one night. I was sitting on a rooftop. City lights flickering beneath me like stars that lost their way. The wind was cold, but honest. I was bleeding inside. Another failure. Another no. Another door slammed in my face. And yet, I felt strangely alive. Because I was still trying. Still showing up. Still hungry. And that hunger, it was holy. It told me I was not finished. Not broken. Not defeated. Just in process. So I stood up, lifted my chin to the black sky, and promised myself this. I will not die with potential inside me. I would risk embarrassment. I would risk judgment. I would risk it all. Because what scared me more than failure was regret. The thought of one day looking back and realizing I had been too scared to try. That is the real nightmare. To live a life of safety, but never of substance. I had tasted pain. Now I wanted power. And I would earn it. Every drop, every breath, every heartbeat. Because I had learned, pain is temporary, but legacy is forever. And the only way to build a legacy is to refuse to break when it hurts the most. That is where your story begins. Not at the win, not at the finish line, but in the storm. When no one is watching, when you are bleeding in silence, when you are unsure, terrified, and standing in the dark. That is where the hero is born. The wind was howling louder now. It wrapped around my body like a challenge. Cold fingers pressing into my skin. Like the world itself was testing me. My clothes were damp from the rooftop air. My bones stiff from standing too long. But I refused to go inside. Because inside was safety. And safety had done nothing for me. It had fed me lies, caged my spirit, and numbed my fight. So I stayed under the stars. Shivering, breathing, awake, fully awake, for the first time in years. I was not hiding behind hope. I was not begging for miracles. I was not dreaming. I was deciding. And that is what most people never understand. Your life does not change when you dream bigger. It changes when you choose differently. So I chose to get up when it hurt, to move forward without applause, to let go of who I was supposed to be, and become who I was built to be. I started killing the lies one by one. The lie that I was not good enough. The lie that my past defined me. The lie that I had to wait for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. There is only now. That moment of clarity. It did not feel like lightning. It felt like fire. A slow burn deep in my gut, telling me the person I was had to die, so the warrior could rise. And rising is not glorious. It is ugly. It is messy. It is screaming in a dark room, with no one to hear you. It is falling again and again, and again, and still dragging yourself forward, with blood in your mouth, and rage in your chest. Not rage at others. Rage at what you let yourself become. Because comfort makes you forget how powerful you are. And I had been too comfortable, too numb, too polite, too silent. I had become a watered-down version of myself, living in fear of failure, drowning in the opinions of people who were not even brave enough to chase their own dreams. So I burned it all. Every excuse, every mask, every watered-down belief I had inherited. I became new, not overnight, but in the battle, in the cold, in the fire. And this is what they do not prepare you for. Transformation is violent. It rips you apart, destroys your innocence, shatters your comfort, but it also reveals the part of you that cannot be killed, the part of you that keeps breathing, even when your hope is gone. That night on the rooftop, I whispered to the sky, I am not afraid anymore. Not because fear had vanished, but because I had decided to fight anyway. That is real courage, not the absence of fear, but the defiance of it. I started showing up to life like I belonged there, Even when my hand shook, even when my voice cracked, even when the door stayed closed. I kept knocking. I kept moving. I kept bleeding. Because I understood now. The world does not give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand. So I demanded better. From the world. From others. From myself. And I stopped apologizing for it. Because too many people are dying. With greatness still inside them. Chained to a life they settled for. Because no one ever taught them that they were allowed to be powerful. Well, I am telling you now. You are allowed. You are allowed to want more. To need more. To fight for more. You are allowed to stop playing small. So others feel comfortable. You are allowed to outgrow the version of you that kept everyone else happy, but killed your spirit. You are allowed to rise. Even if they do not clap. Even if they laugh. Even if you rise alone. Especially if you rise alone. Because those who rise alone, they never forget the pain that shaped them. They carry it like armor, and their footsteps echo louder than applause. So, if you are standing in the dark right now, if your heart is tired, if you feel invisible, do not give up, because that pain, that silence, that hunger, it is building something inside you that cannot be faked and cannot be stolen. It is building a version of you that will not need permission to take up space. You are not weak for hurting. You are strong for surviving. And one day, the world will look at you and ask, how did you do it? And you will smile, not because it was easy, but because you finally understood. You never needed them to believe in you. You just needed to believe in yourself, loud enough to drown out the noise. The noise is the first enemy. The whispers of doubt, the laughter behind your back, the quiet questions in the eyes of those who watch you fail. It does not come like thunder. It creeps, soft as breath, sharp as broken glass. You hear it when you are alone, when the world is silent, when the lights go out, and your thoughts crawl out of their cages. I remember sitting in that small, cracked room, peeling walls, a broken chair, the smell of old wood and forgotten dreams. There were no cheers, no mentors, just a cheap notebook, a fading bulb, and me. I wrote down every goal, every fear, every brutal truth I had avoided. My hands were trembling, not from weakness, but from everything I had buried, finally coming to the surface. And that was lesson 16. You cannot heal from what you will not face. I stared at my own handwriting. Ugly, messy, honest. It was not poetry. It was a confession. I had lied to myself for years, smiled when I wanted to scream, said I'm fine while bleeding inside. That night, I stopped lying. I wrote the real story. And for the first time, I realized I was the author. No one else could hold the pen. I could keep writing tragedy, or I could write revolution. That choice belonged to me. I stood up from that chair, wobbly but certain. The floor creaked beneath me, like it recognized my decision. The world had not changed. The rent was still due. The people still doubted me. But I was not the same. Something had shifted. And that is lesson 17. The world reflects who you are inside. You walk like you are nothing. It will treat you like nothing. You walk like you are worthy. It will notice. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But it will. Because energy cannot lie. So I started moving like I believed. Even on the days I did not. Especially on the days I did not. I built discipline when motivation died. I built structure when emotion failed. The gym became my battlefield. The books became my weapons. The silence became my sanctuary. I cut off people who did not clap when I won. I stopped explaining my value. I stopped waiting for love that came with conditions. I became whole. Not because someone saved me, but because I saved myself. And that is the most brutal, most powerful truth of all. No one is coming. Not the perfect mentor. Not the rich investor. Not the dream partner. You are the hero. You are the help. You are the answer. So I stopped looking out the window and started building doors. One painful, beautiful, relentless decision at a time. I said yes to growth. Yes to risk. Yes to the life that scared me. Because comfort is a cage. And fear is a liar. I do not know what chapter you are in. Maybe you just fell. Maybe you are still on the floor. Maybe you are thinking about giving up. But listen to me. This pain is sacred. It is not here to kill you. It is here to crown you. So cry, bleed, shake, scream if you have to. But do not stop. Because one day, you will look back at this moment, this exact breath, and realize it was not the end. It was the beginning of your rise, the beginning of your roar, the beginning of everything they said you could not be. And you will smile, not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. You endured. You evolved. You earned every scar. And that strength, that power, that story, it is yours. Own it. Live it. Honor it. Because the world does not need more perfection. It needs your truth. It needs your fire. It needs your voice. And the day you stop hiding, the day you step into your full, unapologetic, unstoppable self, that is the day. Everything changes. You start to notice things differently after that shift. Colors become sharper. Moments feel heavier. You stop rushing through the day like it is just something to survive. You begin to taste your breath. Feel your heartbeat. Hear your thoughts like distant drums growing louder with each step forward. And there is something beautiful about becoming your own rescue. You start walking into rooms without fear. You no longer beg to be seen. You command it with presence. Not arrogance, not ego, but quiet, undeniable power. You stop flinching when people leave. You stop apologizing when you say no. You stop waiting for validation to confirm what you already know. Because now you understand. Lesson 18. You are not here to fit in. You are here to shake the ground you walk on. You are not meant to dim. You are meant to blaze. You are not here to blend into the background, to tiptoe through life, just to arrive safely at death. You are here to wake people up, to disrupt mediocrity, to lead where others only follow. And that role comes with a price. You will be misunderstood, mocked, feared, blamed for things you never did. But you will be free. And freedom is worth more than acceptance, more than popularity, more than comfort. Because once you free yourself, you give others permission to do the same. That is where the ripple begins. In your silence, turn to speech. In your pain, turn to purpose. In your scars, turn to armor. And the world cannot ignore that kind of force. I remember walking into a place that used to break me. A room where I once felt invisible. Where every glance made me shrink. Where I learned to hate my own reflection. But that day, I walked in differently. Shoulders back, breath steady. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I had outgrown the need to be small. And it showed. That is lesson 19. You will not need to prove anything when you have become everything. You become the lesson. You become the reminder. You become the storm they warned others about. Not because you are angry, but because you are awake. And awakening changes everything. You stop playing tug-of-war with people who are not even pulling. You stop texting those who never ask how you are. You stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because your time is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is not a negotiation anymore. You wake up differently. Not chasing the world, but building it. Your world. Your rules. Your rhythm. You no longer beg for crumbs at tables you were never meant to sit at. You build your own table. From splinters and heartbreak and wild belief. And you invite those who see your worth, without needing to be convinced. That is the real revolution. It is not loud. It does not always go viral. It does not wear a crown. But it is undeniable. And it lasts. Because when you build yourself in truth, you cannot be torn down by lies. You do not break when people walk away. You do not crumble when the storm hits. You bend. You adapt. You rise. Again and again. And the world begins to see that you are not like the rest. You do not collapse at no. You do not give up at fail. You do not freeze when it gets hard. You become harder, sharper, more precise. Because you have lived through things that would have buried others. You have danced with demons, held grief in your bare hands, and still walked into the sunrise. And that is something no degree, no title, no follower count can ever replace. That is called soul. It is earned, never gifted. And that is lesson 20. You are not measured by what you have. You are measured by what you have survived. So if they ask you where your confidence comes from, tell them about the nights you could not breathe, but kept going. Tell them about the mornings you wanted to quit, but got up anyway. Tell them about the dreams buried alive, the doors slammed shut, the people who left, and how you built anyway. Not for them, but for you. Because your story is not written in ink. It is written in fire. And every page is a reminder that you were born to burn, not to destroy, but to light the way for others who have forgotten that they too are made of flame. You start to walk with the weight of your story on your back, but now it is not heavy. It is armor. Every heartbreak you carried, every betrayal you swallowed, every failure that laughed in your face, it all becomes part of your spine. It straightens you. It grounds you. It reminds you that you are still here, and not just alive, awake, unshaken, unapologetic. Because lesson 21 is this: you were never broken. You were just buried, beneath expectations, beneath shame, beneath the need to please people who never deserved your loyalty. But seeds grow in the dark, and now you are rising, not because someone watered you, but because you clawed your way toward the sun, with bare hands and bloody knuckles. They told you to be realistic. They told you to be grateful. They told you not to want so much. But you were never meant to settle. You were meant to roar. So now, you do. Not to be heard, not to be praised, but because silence nearly killed you. And speaking is how you save yourself. That is the rawest truth. Nobody tells you that your voice will first feel like a whisper. It will tremble. It will shake. But if you keep using it, it becomes thunder. It becomes wind strong enough to tear down every lie you were ever taught about your worth. And you will need that wind, because there will still be storms. The difference is, now you are one. You will stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Lesson 22. Pain is a compass. It points you to what matters. It points you to where the healing must begin. So do not numb it. Do not outrun it. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Let it carve you into someone you would not have met without the fire. You will lose people. You will lose parts of yourself. But you will find something more valuable. You will find clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you stand for. Clarity about where you are going, and who no longer deserves a seat beside you. That is where your boundaries are born, in the ashes of all the times you said yes, when your soul was screaming no. Now, you choose differently, not because you are bitter, but because you are better. Lesson 23. Healing is not becoming someone new. It is remembering who you were before the world told you to be small, before you were told to dim your joy, before you were taught to fear your own voice, before your light was measured against someone else's shadow. You return to your essence, to your fire, to the part of you that dared to dream, even when life tried to turn you into a warning. And that part, that pure, bold, wild part, that is where your power lives. So let them say you changed. Let them say you are distant. Let them say you are too much. You are too focused, too awake, too aware of your own value to shrink again. Lesson 24. Your growth will offend those who only knew the unhealed version of you. Let it. You do not owe anyone the version of you that played small to keep their ego safe. You owe yourself everything you kept burying. The dreams, the voice, the fire, the freedom. It is not too late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are building something eternal. In your spirit, in your habits, in your choices, and every step you take now, no matter how shaky, is holy. Lesson 25. You do not need the world to understand your path. You just need to keep walking it. Because one day, that path you carved alone, through blood and grit and silence, will lead others out of their darkness too. You will be the proof, the light, the echo in someone else's chest, telling them to rise. And that is the kind of legacy no one can erase. And when you look in the mirror, you will not just see skin. You will see story, battle, becoming. You will see someone who earned every inch of their peace. Someone who did not cheat the process. Someone who chose the fire and came out gold. Lesson 26. Respect is not demanded. It is built in silence, when no one is watching. It is not what you say about yourself. It is what your life says for you. It is how you show up when the applause dies. It is what you do when no one is clapping. It is how you hold your head high, even when the world tries to bend your neck. You do not need permission anymore. Not to speak, not to walk away, not to grow past those who swore you never would. Your presence is your permission. Your survival is your statement. Your energy is your proof. Because lesson 27 is cruel and true. People do not see your scars. They see your results. They only ask how you did it after they watch you win. They only care about your pain after it becomes your platform. And that is fine. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them try to replicate the power that can only come from walking through hell and not staying there. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be legendary. You are here to write the kind of story that your younger self would have wept to read. A story of triumph, of grit, of someone who was never handed anything, but built everything. One choice at a time, one breath at a time, one day at a time. And it is not glamorous. It is not always pretty. It is raw. It is lonely. It is often unseen. But it is real. And real always wins. Because when the world forgets, you will remember. You will remember the nights you stood tall, when your knees begged to collapse, the mornings you rose without strength, fueled only by vision, the hours you gave, the tears you swallowed, the voices you silenced, to finally hear your own. Lesson 28. Success is quiet torture before it becomes visible triumph. You will be invisible before you are undeniable, ignored before you are applauded, doubted before you are studied. So if it feels lonely, good, you are doing it right. And when they ask how you made it, you will smile, not out of pride, but out of memory. You will remember the exact moment you could have broken, but chose not to. And that is lesson 29. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is choosing purpose despite it. Anyone can smile when it is easy. Anyone can be hopeful when the sun is shining. But you learned to find fire in the middle of your winter. You learned to speak power over your own name when the world tried to erase it. You learned to stand without backup, to fight without applause, to build when there was no blueprint. And now, you are the blueprint. So do not shrink now. Do not soften your truth to fit into places you were never designed to belong. Do not apologize for growing past people who chose comfort over courage. Let them go. Let them fade. Let them remember you only as a chapter in a story they never finished reading. Because you are still writing. And the final lesson? Lesson 30. The most powerful thing you will ever do is refuse to give up on yourself. Not once. Not ever. Not even when it hurts. Not even when it is slow. Not even when no one sees. You keep going. Because you are not here to survive. You are here to lead. To love. To lift. To live. And that is how legends are born. So if no one told you yet, let me be the first. You have already come further than most ever will. You have already faced storms that would have shattered weaker hearts. You have already proven that there is something inside you, too wild to quit, too stubborn to break, too sacred to waste. This world may not celebrate your quiet victories. It may not see the nights you held yourself together. It may never understand what it took just to still be here. But that is not your burden. That is your brilliance. Because you are not here to be understood. You are here to become unforgettable. Not for what you own, or what you wear, or who claps when you speak, but for what you overcame, for what you carried, for how you rose, when no one else could. And someday, when someone else stands where you once stood, scared, shaking, ready to give up, they will hear your story, feel your fire, and remember that they, too, are capable of rising. That is your legacy. That is your impact. That is your truth. So stand tall, breathe deep, walk forward, and never forget, you did not just survive life's brutal lessons. You turned them into your power. You turned them into light. And now, you are unstoppable.